Welcome to Epic Church. I'm Pastor Jake McCandless, and this is our Epic Kids segment, our time before our worship service each week online, where we focus just on our kids, on our students. Because at Epic Church, we love our kids, we love our families, and when we went online to begin with during this coronavirus time, we wanted to make sure we had time for our kids. So thank you for being here with us, whether you're with us at 9:45 a.m. on Sunday morning as we're starting out, or if you're catching us later. And I hope that you'll stick around for our worship service at 10 o'clock. Now, this is the last time we're going to be doing this segment like this because next week we are meeting on campus. We're not going to be inside yet, but we're going to have a lawn service out in our lawn. We encourage you to bring your lawn chairs. If you forget, we'll have extra chairs, or if you can't find them. But come on, come to our Springdale campus. We'll be meeting there 10 a.m. Now, we're looking forward to meeting back together physically in our building. But we want to make sure that we all can be on the same page. Several in our congregation are at a high risk. And so we want to make sure that we're taking the necessary precautions and making where everybody can be a part. So join us outside 10 a.m. next week at our church in Springdale. And if it rains, we'll still be meeting. We'll just be meeting in our cars, and the lawn service then turns into a drive-in service. Well, this is Epic Kids. Again, thanks for being here. So we've been talking about, for now, 9 weeks. I can't believe that. What happens in scary times? And by scary times, I mean times maybe like right now, where things have changed, where there's this possibility of getting sick. Or maybe a time when you get sick personally, or you break your leg, your foot, your parents, something changes in your household, whatever it is. In those bad and scary times, God is still in control. And we talked about how that God didn't create the world with the bad in it, but because of what Adam and Eve did in the garden as they broke God's rule and they were removed from that garden, bad and scary things entered into the world. But God had a plan to fix it, and he's already started that plan. So we have hope because in that plan, Jesus came and died on the cross for us, and he's coming back, and he's going to make all things new. That's where we began. And over the last few weeks, we've been talking about how that even in bad times, God is doing good things. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. So this week, I want to share with you that even when scary times come, even when bad things happen, some of the good that God does is that we get to know more about him. And when we do, our view of God gets bigger. And that's a very good thing. Last week, we talked about that when scary times come, God could be testing our faith. And we looked in the Bible at the story. And again, not just a story, but something that happened, a very real thing that happened. When we looked at the life of Job, Job was a man who had everything, a large family, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 oxen and donkeys. He had lots of servants, and he loved God. So much so that Satan told God that Job only loved him because he gave him everything. And God allowed Satan to let scary things happen in Job's life. And Satan did. And Satan, the devil, did do those things to Job. Job got word from one messenger that his oxen and donkeys and the servants taking care of them were gone, that his sheep were gone, his camels were gone, and the worst of all, his family was gone. And then Job himself got really sick and his body was covered in sores, so much so that he found pottery, broken pottery, and just scratched himself because the pain was so bad. But even in that, he never turned away from God. He never quit believing. And that's a good thing. But Job did ask God a lot of questions. He wanted to know why this was happening. And the book of Job is a long book. The first two chapters tell what happens to him. But from chapters 3 through 37, Job is asking these questions, and his friends come and they talk about it. In chapter 38, God answers Job, but he doesn't answer Job in the way you would think. He never gives Job the answer he's quite looking for. But the answer he gives teaches Job and it teaches us so much more about God. It's this amazing answer that goes for several chapters. And I want to give just a little bit of that answer with you. So I'm going to look in the book of Job and share this with you. So Job spent a long time asking God what was wrong. And you know, when bad things happen in our life, it's okay to ask God why. It's okay to tell God that we think it stinks. Now, it's not okay to quit believing him. That's not something we should do. Job didn't do that. But Job also didn't get the answer he was looking for. Listen to what God told him. Now, God's answer goes from chapter 38, 39, chapter 40, and chapter 41, and it's continually like what I'm going to read to you. So in chapter 38, verse 1, it says, "The Lord answered Job out of the storm, and he said, who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me." God said, brace yourself, because these questions are going to be so hard. So God asked Job questions. Listen to these. I'm just going to read a few of them. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set, or laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together, and all the angels shouted for joy. Now we know in the Bible tells us that God created this whole world. And God is asking Job, where were you when the world was made? And he talks about it like we would build a house. If you've ever seen a house or a building being built, they go and they get the dirt ready, and then they put in the footings, then they lay the foundation, they decide how big it's going to be. And that's what God did when he made the world. Was Job there when the world was made? Were the angels singing as Job made the world? No. Because our God is so big. He made the world. He knows everything. Listen to this. He said, who shut up the sea behind its doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness, and when I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place, when I said, this far you may come and no further, here's where your proud waves halt. So then God asked, where were you when I made the oceans and I told it where to stop? God's in a total different world than us, right? We can't even imagine what that means, what that would look like. And so when things happen, God never lets Job know exactly what happened. God's just showing him that he knows all and he's in control. And to go on, he says, have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place, that it may take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked out of it? And so God says, where are you when I told it to be day and to be night? This is my favorite one. Verse 22. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of hell? I don't know if you won't know what a storehouse is, but you know your closet. But a storehouse or warehouse is a huge building with shelves going all the way up to the ceiling, or as far as you can see. So if it's maybe a warehouse for Walmart or something, distribution center as they call it, there are items all on these shelves, and they go for long, long ways, just full of all these things. And when you walk in, you're like, wow, this building is so big. That's so much. And so God doesn't actually have warehouses that he keeps snow in. It's just this idea that every piece of snow, every snowflake that is ever falling on the earth, God sent. And so he gives this picture like he's got this huge warehouse of all the snow that's ever come, or the hell that's ever come. This is which I reserve for times of trouble, for days of war and battle. What is the way to the place where the lightning is dispersed, or the place where the east winds are scattered over the earth? Who cuts a channel for the torrents of rain and a path for the thunderstorm, to water land where no man lives? Wow. And he says, can you raise your voice to the clouds and cover yourself with a flood of water? Do you send the lightning bolts on their way? Wow. Dude, God tells the lightning bolts where to go, where the rain to go. It's amazing, isn't it? When we think about just how big God is. I'd like to read one more. In chapter 41, it says, can you pull the Leviathan? The Leviathan is like a giant sea creature, maybe like we would think of a dinosaur or a dragon. Can you pull the Leviathan with a fishhook, or tie down his tongue with a rope? Can you put a cord through his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? This idea that there's creatures that way bigger than we can even imagine, and God has control of them. And God goes on with these continual statements, and listen to Job's answer. Then Job replied to the Lord, I know that you can do all things, and no plan of yours can be thwarted or stopped. Job never got the answer he was looking for, but what he did learn is that God is big, God is huge, God is in control. So even when bad things happen, God is always in control. Even when things don't make sense to us, they make sense to the one who made this world and told the sea where to stop. And even when bad things happen and things are scary, like Job, we can learn more about God. And when we do, our view of him gets bigger. Thanks for being at Epic Kids. I hope you'll stick around for our service at 10. And I hope that you'll join us next week at our church outside. That's going to be fun.